Imagine a country that's 45 times smaller than Russia, but has almost as many people, including tourists. Land is scarce and expensive, so everything is built upward. There are multi-level parking lots for cars and even for bicycles, capsule hotels, and vending machines selling nearly everything: eggs, meat, potatoes, t-shirts, and underwear. On the territory of this country, there are megaliths left by a mysterious civilization, televisions, giant keyholes, and much more. And if you take a closer look at the locals, you realize they're definitely from another planet, but more on that a bit later. So, Japan? If you're watching this episode, chances are you don't have your own private business jet to hop over to this country for the weekend. So make yourself comfortable. We're about to tell you all about it. Cities. Most of the country's population is concentrated in cities, so be prepared for constant lines. A line to board the train, a line for the escalator, a line at the restaurant. Yes, that's right, just to eat at some street food place, you might have to wait for 2 hours. Everywhere lines tend to form. There will be special markings on the floor or pavement for queues, so people don't get in each other's way, especially those who aren't standing in the line. By the way, it's surprising that even here, there's also a problem with dying villages. Only here, this problem once again has a local flavor. As the nation ages rapidly and megacities become overcrowded, abandoned rural houses are rising. The authorities of small settlements are taking drastic measures. Some houses are put up for auction for a symbolic fee, while others are given away for free. Some are willing to pay more if you start renovations there, though there are restrictions. Free housing is offered only to young families with children, where parents are 43 or younger and children are in elementary school or younger. At the same time, families are required to move to this settlement and actually live there, not just come for vacations or holidays. So those hoping to get a free summer house in Japan can forget about their rosy dreams. Mentality. There are legends about how attentive to detail the Japanese are, and for good reason. Sometimes it seems like they're capable of taking anything to an absurd extreme. Consider Japanese carpentry joints, for example. The Japanese use 2 types of slippers at home, one for general use and another just for the bathroom. Besides being the longest living, this is also one of the most hard-working nations in the world. The average Japanese person only sleeps 6.5 hours at night, so most people fall asleep during their work breaks, in parks, in cafes, in bookstores, in shopping malls, and in any other public place. This kind of sleep is so common and so normal that the Japanese have a word for it, inimuri, which means being present while sleeping. In other countries, sleeping at work might cost an employee their job, but not in Japan. Here, it's considered a sign of diligence, because it shows that a person is so dedicated to their work that they worked themselves to exhaustion. The Japanese are masters at coming up with activities where they can demonstrate their Japanese diligence, patience, and concentration. For example, dorodango, balls made of earth that are polished, might sound simple in theory. You mix earth and water until you get a pliable mud, then shape it into a smooth ball. Next, we polish the surface by hand until it achieves a mirror-like shine, known as the hikaru, or shining state. In reality, though, it's a constant repetition of tedious, monotonous actions for several hours, and you have to constantly make sure that the ball doesn't crack. One Japanese jeweler probably didn't want to get his hands dirty, so he came up with another way to have fun. He took a 16-meter roll of kitchen foil and started crumpling it, then hammering it, and then polishing it. After many hours of Japanese work, he got a ball like this. Obviously, the rest of the Japanese people were thrilled, and now the whole country is obsessed with polishing foil balls. But you can't say that the Japanese are boring, they're just different. This is clear not only in anime, but also in Japanese shows and television overall. There's everything you can imagine there. For example, these kinds of cruel pranks. Of course, public transportation in Japan is punctual and incredibly well developed. Taxis here are very expensive. Rides can cost tens of thousands of rubles. But it's unlikely that our people will be able to rent a car. Russian driver's licenses turn into a pumpkin in Japan. There are also some nuances to owning a personal car. In Japan, you can't just save up money and buy a car. First, you'll have to prove that you'll be able to use it without causing inconvenience to others. One of the main requirements is having a personal parking space located within a 2-kilometer radius of your home. Parking spaces are often rented, and their size matters. When submitting documents to the police, include a drawing of your parking space. The police officer might not let you buy a new SUV if he thinks your parking space is too small. Japan is the most bicycle-friendly country in Asia, and Tokyo ranks among the world's top 10 bicycle-friendly cities. But at the same time, the country lacks cycling infrastructure. Entire streets are closed off to cyclists. Bike lanes are often merged with sidewalks. There are hardly any proper dedicated bike lanes, and especially bike paths in Japanese cities, only on major streets. If you think you only need to follow the rules of paid bike parking, you're mistaken. Cyclists have specific riding rules, and fines exist for violations. All bicycles must be registered. A special sticker is attached to the bike. The owner is given an identification card, which must always be carried with them. The police often check documents, and if you don't have the card, the authorities may suspect that the bicycle is stolen. Tatayama. The European part of our country once again found itself without snow for New Year's. But in the northern mountains of Japan, some roads look like this every year. Many people still don't believe that this isn't Photoshop. Every year in Japan, along the roads of one of the prefectures, great snow walls grow, reaching heights of up to 20 meters. In winter, the highway gets covered with so much snow that when it's dug out in April or May, such deep gorges are formed. To ensure the excavation is precise, special multimeter towers with built-in radio transmitters are installed along the roadway. Ecology. The Japanese lead the world in waste sorting and recycling. For them, it's the only way. 126 million people would quickly pollute a small country if nothing was done about the waste. That's why the fines for various waste violations are so high. Fines can reach up to 5 million rubles for illegal dumping. Photos of violators are posted all over the neighborhood so that neighbors know who the culprits are. Cities have their own waste collection rules, and there are instructions for newcomers on how to sort waste called gomi guides. The first part of the word, gomi, means garbage. Sometimes, this reading material is about 50 pages long. The Japanese throw out their trash according to a waste calendar. A certain type of trash on a certain day. It's very hard to find trash bins on the streets, but it's still not dirty. The Japanese are used to discarding items only in designated places, such as various bins found in stores. During the 2018 Fédération Internationale de Football Association World Cup, Japanese fans calmly walked through the stadium rows after the match and cleaned up after themselves. The national team defender commented on this as follows: "In Japan, they say you should leave any place cleaner than it was before you." The players themselves also cleaned up after themselves in the locker room. In a country where there's simply nowhere to take out the trash, nowhere to bury it or throw it away out of sight, the only option left is to develop advanced waste recycling technologies. What can't be recycled is burned. Roughly 2/3 of Japan's waste is incinerated at special facilities that minimize harmful atmospheric emissions. The energy produced is then used. Such a careful attitude toward waste does not prevent this super-technological nation from dumping radioactive waste into the world's oceans. Each day, 300 to 400 liters of highly radioactive groundwater from under Fukushima are still released into the ocean. But that's not the most interesting part. After the accident, a 20-kilometer zone around the plant was evacuated. But in May 2011, it turned out that fairly high levels of radiation were being observed far beyond this zone, including areas located 40 kilometers away from the plant. There was a discussion about evacuating everyone within 40 kilometers of the plant, but this was considered too costly a procedure. The Japanese government responded by raising the maximum allowable radiation dose for civilians by 20 times through new health regulations. Thus, The radioactive zone turned out to be quite clean. The United States government advised its citizens in Japan to stay at least 80 kilometers from the Fukushima 1 nuclear plant, while Japan only evacuated people within 20 kilometers. The Japanese government also decided that if someone received under 100 Roentgens, any illness they developed wasn't due to Fukushima and shouldn't be attributed to it. And 100 Roentgens is actually the minimum for acute radiation sickness, so it's not a small dose. In Chernobyl, liquidators were supposed to be discharged after receiving 25 Roentgens. You understand? That's quite a convenient way to count the number of people affected by the accident. Finance. In Japan, there is no minimum wage as we understand it. There is a starting salary, which is the same for everyone, and it increases depending on the number of years worked at the company. University graduates earn a starting salary of 200,000 yen, about 100,000 rubles, per month. The minimum hourly wage is 900 yen, which is about 450 rubles. A Japanese person pays 100,350,000 yen, about 50,125,000 rubles, for apartment rent. Housing rent depends on distance from the city center, closeness to train stations, and building age. The most popular housing is Usagi Goya, a small 15-20 square meter room in the city center near train stations, costing about 52,000 rubles. A typical multi-bedroom apartment of 40 SQM costs 200,350,000 yen, or 100,125,000 rubles. Transportation costs are high, about 10,000 rubles, and a subway ride is about 200 rubles. Here, you even have to pay to use a bicycle. Bicycle parking costs an average of 50 rubles per day. Groceries for one person cost around 40,000–55,000 yen, or 20,000–30,000 rubles. In Japan, vegetables and fruits are costly and sold individually, not by the kilogram like we do. One apple, orange, mushroom, or fruit costs 100 to 200 yen. There are things in Japan that are really expensive. Among them is going to the movies. It costs from 1,000 rubles per ticket. Pizza costs 700 rubles for a small one, and almost 2,000 rubles for a large one. A Shinkansen ticket from Tokyo to Osaka costs over 11,000 rubles. Japanese people pay 2,000–3,000 rubles monthly for active mobile phone use. Pension. Retirement age is 65. Early retirement results in reduced payments. Or later, and then they'll rise. In Japan, a pension has 3 parts. The base cost is about 40,000 rubles. The professional supplement is 35–40% of the salary, and a one-time payment is the average salary multiplied by the number of years worked in the organization. With a salary of 500,000 yen and 40 years of service, this payment amounts to about 11 million, 1 million rubles. However, in Japan, there are elderly people who barely make ends meet, and some retirees even commit crimes to end up in prison, where they will be given food and have a roof over their heads. And to finally settle the question of incomes and comparisons, here are some figures from 2 countries with very similar population numbers. The number of dollar billionaires in Japan, the homeland of giants like Nissan, Toyota, Honda, Panasonic, Toshiba, and Canon, is 3 times less than in Russia, even though Japanese companies hold 69 spots in the ranking of the world's 500 largest companies. Japan has far more dollar millionaires than Russia. Under 0.1% of Russians are millionaires, compared to 2.6% of Japan's population. Only about 1% of Russian residents have fortunes between 60 and 600 million rubles. And in Japan, more than half of the population falls into this category, specifically 54%. And finally, the last figure. The percentage of residents with assets less than 6 million is 82% in Russia, while in Japan, there are only 8% of such poor people. How can you not say the classic phrase here, "Do you really want things to be like in Japan?" That's quite an interesting country. Rate this episode fairly and write in the comments which country you'd like to see next. And turn on notifications so you don't miss the detailed episode about Japanese megaliths. See you on Chromola.